So we come to the end of the chapter 17. And we just looked at the threefold division of Shraddha. Shraddha being that your consistency of purpose to the very end. So you may not be skilled, but with that consistency of purpose, you gain that skill. You may have a talent, but without a consistency of purpose, if one doesn't use that, if one uses that talent without the consistency, one doesn't go anywhere. It will go, but it won't make you, won't drive you to where you've got to get to. So the consistency of purpose, of upping your tamas to rajas to sattva is key. However much your mind tries to struggle or wiggle out of moving from tamas to rajas, your mind will always play a trick to struggle out. From rajas, get so absorbed because in rajas, in tamas, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody can see it. The person involved can't see anybody around them, what's happening. They just see themselves. In the rajas, there's so much of a pressure of a ceiling of that materialism, a pressure to acquire and enjoy from outside. Everybody's doing it, so it's so difficult to see beyond unless you extract yourself mentally. It doesn't mean physically necessarily, it's helpful physically sometimes to actually tune into something higher, that you can actually recognize the rajas which is going on. You can analyze or assess it, what's going on, if you step away from it. So to have that capacity, you've got to be feeding yourself with something bigger. Otherwise, you're being fed with the, right now, the media of everything, all the information which is thrown at you, and all the surrounds of what everybody is doing. So in effect, you feel you should be doing the same. Unless you've got the capacity of intellect to grow that capacity of intellect from gross to subtle, only then can you gain that conviction, follow your conscience, to actually think about something possibly more sattvic. And only with the consistency that growth, if you're constantly feeding.
I'm not able to hear Parul. Is it just my problem?
No, Guru Paraji is frozen. Her internet connection has just frozen, I think.
Because I've been having problems with my network since last few days too. So I think the last session that I was in, I was being kicked out very frequently. So I just had to log off just to stop annoying people, because it looked like I was trying to log off and log on frequently. So
Happens to us all. You should be back in a moment.
train. Apologies. I'm not sure what happened. So, Shraddha. We're going to break out of the tamas, get to the rajas, keep the consistency of purpose so that you can see beyond the tamas, the rajas, cultivate that subtle intellect, the sattvic nature, which keeps you en route to going towards that self, that truth within, to breaking the limits, the boundaries of that transient nature that we tend to identify with body, mind, and intellect. So we've got to use the body, mind, and intellect. Remember, like we were saying, the pole vaulting, we've got to use the body, mind, and intellect in our karma bhakti, jnana yogas. We've got to do all of that. But the focus has got to be somewhere elsewhere in order to, even if you have no aspiration of spiritually evolving, even if you just want to live a better life, you've got to focus it off body, mind, and intellect, or the individuality of I and my. It's got to be on something bigger. Even in one's work, one's got to do it, even if you want the rajasic gains, or just want to get out of that tamas. You've got to focus off body, mind, and intellect. So to hold yourself from what our normal preoccupation is, we feed ourselves with that knowledge, karma, bhakti, jnana yoga, those practices. And when we refine ourselves to that extent, which we have so few desires, then place ourselves in that position of meditation or contemplation. We've got to let go eventually of those practices to cross over. So all the practices, all that we do in this world are just means to the end, not an end in itself. So we're on, just about to start 26, 27. We have the last few verses to complete this chapter. Vidya.
Sorry, Paruji, there's a printer noise. I'm just going to stop the printer. Sadbhave sadhubhave cha sad iti etat prayujyate prashaste karmani tatha sad shabdha partayujyate yajne tapasi dane cha sthiti sad iti chochyate karma chaiva tatarthiyam sad iti eva vidiyate.
Guru, if you could read the verse.
Yeah. Sat, this is used in the sense of reality and goodness, O Partha. Also, the word Sat is used as an auspicious act. Verse 27, steadfastness in sacrifice, austerity, and gift is also called Sat, also known for, also action for Tat. Brahman is even called Sat.
So we've been, for the last couple of classes, talking about Om Tat Sat. So he now goes on to explain that this, to explain first Sat, reality. So this reality here, it's used as reality and goodness in two meanings, in fact. So this idea of Sat is used for the auspicious actions that we do. And the action is that we do. So Sat, it says here, Sat Bhava, the definition of reality. So we have heard before that the definition of reality is something which is the same in the past, present, and future. So it expands all aspects of time, which is difficult to conceive in a sense. You know, the same in the past, present, and future. Doesn't change, it's changeless. Right now, we can understand our present, and there is some past and future, but this reality, what we're experiencing now, is not the past or the future. It's in a limited realm as far as we're concerned. So anything which has a limitation, if you think about it, when we go to sleep, what's real now is not real then. And what's real then is not real now. So they're partial realities to us. In the deep sleep, it's different altogether than the dream and now the waking. So these are considered as only partial realities. And this is what we are, essentially, we're hanging on to now, the reality that we see now. We feel that this is solid and real. We don't suspect that there's a partial reality to it. Though we understand the dream and the waking state, we understand now. And we understand we go into a dream and we have some different thoughts which we had at some point culminating together to make a story, a picture there. But when we wake up from that, we sort of understand that there's something elusive about it. It's not steady, it's not real. We can understand that much, actually. Most of us. Some people will argue that. So something that's real remains the same in the past, present, and future. But we tend not to identify with that. We hang on to the things which we feel now as real and nothing else is as such. So what existed in your dream doesn't exist now. If you were a very wealthy person in your dream, you can't use that money to pay your debts now. If you are very successful now, you can't use that success to be even doing yajna, tapa, and dana in the dream. It's different. If you're a very service person in the dream, you can't take it into this and use it here. It's partial reality. So we can understand that. So what is trying to put here is that our experience here has got a partial reality, but what we're after is this Sat, Om Tat Sat, this reality, which doesn't change. It doesn't have a relative reality to it. But in this context also, Sat is used as goodness. Goodness is a value which promotes goodness, actually takes you to reality, because a value
You seem to have lost Parul ji. No.
I think her internet is having problems this morning. We'll just hold on, she'll pop back. You're muted, Paraji.
There's a little bit of an internet connection issue, I think, today. Apologies. So, Sat, reality, same in the past, present, and future. Same. Opposite to Asat, which is a not reality. We feel this is the reality. Right now, we feel everything is real. But it's not the same in the dream. The waking state is a different condition. It's not the same in the deep sleep state. So in all different states, it seems like a partial reality. That Sat reality is also that goodness which enables us to evolve to that spiritual enlightenment. So when we put ourselves in a conducive environment of pursuing values which are positive, values which are evolutionary, with that goodness, good acts, auspicious acts, they enable us to refine ourselves and shrug off that agitation and stress. And the agitation and stress is that which causes more ripple effects of desire and desire and desire, which need more fulfillment, which generally means you're moving towards the world, the transient world, which can never fix your expectation. Just got to go inwards.
Aurel, you just had two questions. So word Sat, is it also the part of the word Sattvic that we've been...
Could be. I'm not sure of the Sanskrit derivative as being the same, but it's look, Sat, reality. Sattvic is just talking about getting to the reality.
Mhm.
So it's plausible. We can check it.
Aurel, the other question is, so when we talk about the reality, we said this is the partial reality, the one that we see. So, so is there so what is complete reality, Aurel? So between the sleep state and the state of being awake, is there actually a reality beyond these two?
That's exactly what it's trying to put forward. But it's also acknowledging this fact that right now, when, say, for example, when you're in a dream, you don't know what the waking state is. You're fully immersed in that dream. You feel everything in that dream, even if the understanding of each sequence of events is not logical. You could be 1 minute in Australia and 1 minute in India, all in the first few seconds in a dream. You could
Aurel, I think your frame is frozen again.
Let's just be patient today. We have an internet problem. It's because it's Holy Week in England. God clearly intervening in our internet connection.
Yeah, I've been through the same thing last week, Wednesday, Tim. So I believe I probably might have gone through the same phase myself.
Apologies. Let's keep Shraddha. That's all we can do. So just to recap. So you know in the dream, all these sequence of events have happened. There's no chronological order as you see in the waking state. When you wake up, you see that. And you also acknowledge to yourself, if there's some relative sanity going on, that that's not so real. It's elusive. So whilst you're in this waking state, everything around you is real. The suggestion of what we're being taught here is even this is swapna, a dream. They don't actually even explain it in Upanishads, they just put swapna, jaga, dream. Waking dream and deep sleep states are just swapna, dream. They use one word. They don't use 3 words in Upanishad language. Here in the Bhagavad Gita, they use many. In different places, they use many to explain. This is the level we're at, more elaboration. So it's something beyond swapna. It's jaga, to wake up to that reality. So it's something beyond anything which is relative reality, anything which is partial. That's the suggestion. Unfortunately, no matter what you read, no matter which scripture you look at, they will all give attributes, they will all give methods to get there. They will all give attributes of what it is you're after. When you start to observe yourself within, you know what you're after. You don't want non-permanence, you want to be paripurna. You don't want something which is incomplete, you want to be complete. You don't want something which has a relative partial reality of raga, desha. You want something which is permanent. So all the methods take you to that periphery because it's a different in kind of reality, which isn't experienced in either the waking, dream, or deep sleep state. So all one can do is take you to elevate you along that route, support and to that route to get there. You have to put in the work. It's as simple as that. One has to put in the work to cross over, hence the pole vaulter. You put in the karma, bhakti, jnana yoga to get to that periphery of thought, to cross over. Then you're in that position to cross over, transcend, to get to that reality, which is not changeable, which we're talking about this sat. This is the whole philosophy, to get out of the waking, dream, and deep sleep states of consciousness. But you've got to start, at least get into the waking state at least get on to karma. But when you see it that way, you think, how can I be getting into something else? I just need to be getting on to my karma, bhakti, and jnana to get out, to get to reality. Why am I wasting time on these other things? So just get out, think what your swadharmic nature is, and get on with it to get out. That's all. Don't waste time. So one only knows what this realization is of Sat, this reality, Sat, truth. All of them are talking about it. Vedanta, culmination of knowledge. Vedanta, philosophy, lover of truth. It doesn't matter where you go, religion, to join back. Everybody's talking about the same thing. When you're in a spiritual parlance, when you're in a material parlance, nobody's talking about it. Because the ceiling hasn't been broken there. It's still all in the so that realization is what we're after. And Sat, that reality, its word truth, Sat, reality, in this context is used in terms of meaning the reality, but the actions, the auspicious actions which will take you there is what we're after. So auspicious actions. It's okay, Guru, it makes sense to you? As much as it can?
Yes.
So we need to put ourselves in a conducive environment to take us higher, to take us to that realization. If all the time our environment is just about looking outwards and what we can do and gain and acquire, it's never going to move. You get stuck in that world. One gets stuck in the world of acquisition and enjoyment. It's got to be something bigger that you're after internally. Otherwise you get stuck. So understanding the waking state, which we are in, hopefully we're all awake, is even a partial reality, but it's got the ability that it allows us intellect, where in the dream state, there's only a rudimentary into it. You can't choose the logical sequence of your dream. It just happens for your mind's thoughts. Where in the waking state, you have a choice of action to choose this or that. And if you inform yourself, you can choose evolutionary actions, auspicious acts, which direct you out of that waking state to get you to that purpose. But one has to mentally, if physically withdraw for a time, like you go to school and educate yourself, and mentally, eventually you will be having that self-control withdrawal to cultivate. So when you relate back into the world, your actions are all directed to auspicious acts. to get out. To put it crudely, to get to your truth. There's no fun in staying in the waking state, constantly having pressures and stresses. The idea is to get out so you're free. Make the choice. So, auspicious acts lead to enlightenment. This story of The Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens talks about a chap who's a lawyer called Charles Sidney Cartland, who does a noble act, and it's written at the end of the book. It's a far, far better thing I do than I've ever done. It's a far, far better place I go to than I've ever been. What he's actually done is he takes the place of another person who was wrongly accused. It's during the French Revolution. He's accused of treason, an aristocrat who was actually helping laborers. But he's accused, because he's an aristocrat, of treason. Charles Darnay, who is a lawyer and associated with this person, goes to the prison, takes his place without going into too much detail, because he realizes it's a good thing to do. I'm not telling you the whole story, but one of the inmates, when they're going to be guillotined on the cart, recognizes him. And so recognizes that you are not Evermore, a young girl. He says, you're not. Are you giving your life for somebody else? And when Sidney Clarkland, the lawyer, goes to be guillotined, he says those words, auspicious act. Could you give your help for another, never mind your life? But when you are cultivating your own evolution, you can do all sorts of auspicious acts. So the line is, you think he's stupid. Why did he give his life for another, especially that of an aristocrat? I'm not going into all the details of why, but the line is, it's a far, far better thing I do than I've ever done. It's a far, far better place I go to than I've ever been. When one does, what does it mean? What does one take from that? I don't know if you've heard it before. A far, far better thing I do than I've ever done. A far, far better place I go to than I've ever been. He's just about to get his head chopped off for somebody else who's considered as an aristocrat and been no good. In the eyes of the country. What do you take from that? Anyone? Maybe it's not clear, as it's said.
Well, it looks like, I think, so the character, I think, was very clear about his action, and he knew he was doing it for the right reason in his mind. And he seems to be quite happy doing it. And I think he says, it's a far, far better place. I think in his mind, I think it looks like, I think he is at peace. Even though he's probably going to be killed very soon, but I think he's completely at peace, and probably that's the sort of, I think, realization.
What else can we add to that? Yeah, go ahead as well.
It's a selfless act he's doing without thinking about the consequences, i.e., his eventual death of his physical body. So, so that's what we've been taught, isn't it? We need to do the actions without expecting the rewards. So it's a selfless, it's a satvik dana.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else wants to add? So it's at peace, selfless act, far, far better place that I go to than I've ever been. Anyone else? So there's an indication. You know, he's quite clear. To do that, to serve, to sacrifice, put yourself after some, you think of somebody or some cause bigger than yourself, other than yourself. And in refining your actions or doing something auspicious for something bigger, it catapults you to a different level, to something out of what you know. So we don't know if he was heading on to realization or just a better life, whatever. But he was prepared to give up his physical life for something bigger. We don't have to do that. But you have to think, are you prepared to give up your own interests for something bigger? To evolve, in fact, indirectly you're evolving. Or do you hold on to your own self-interest and keep being busied in your world, hoping it will get better? Yajna, tapa, dana. That's what we're focused on in this chapter. So that steadfastness of which you perform yajna, tapa, and dana, sat, that those actions which lead you, auspicious acts which lead you to that up, that truth. Is what we're after. If there's no shraddha, you've got to have shraddha to do any of this. If there's no shraddha, it won't go anywhere. But if there's shraddha, that consistency of purpose, even if you make the mistakes or it's somewhat skewed, it refines it to making it from that self-interest to that unselfishness. It's got to be shraddha in your activities, consistency of purpose to the end. It refines it to getting your mind focused on that truth. Sat. To get to that higher value, which changes the focus of the periphery of your view in the world. But it also takes you out of the world and focuses you on truth. Shraddha. Asat, you don't get any higher. Sat. Focus on that goodness, those auspicious acts. Leads you to the reality of enlightenment. Let's read it.
Sat. The last of the three words, Om Tat Sat, also refers to spiritual enlightenment. Sat is used here in the sense of reality and goodness. Reality is that which existed in the past, exists in the present, and will exist in the future. Goodness is conducive to God realization, serves as the base for a seeker to develop his personality to attain God realization. Sat is also used in the sense of an auspicious act. Auspicious, since the action takes the seeker to the goal of enlightenment. Verse 27 specifies auspicious action and the mode of execution. Sacrifice, austerity, and gift described earlier are the threefold action directed to Tat, state of enlightenment. This verse specifies the importance of maintaining steadfastness in such action. Through the action be right, it still needs consistent effort to attain the desired result. Action founded on the threefold discipline of sacrifice, austerity, and gift itself is referred to as Sat. The end is known by the means. It indicates the appropriateness of action, certainty of result, the effort as good as goal. Hence, the action for Tat is called Sat.
So your sattvic actions is as good as being at the goal, in a sense. It's not, but it is. So you know it in yourself. You rise at the sattvic time. You reflect and you study. You take in that knowledge. You set your day. You go through your day. You know when it's lousy, or you know when it's with that universal view. Takes you to that truth. Appropriateness of action, certainty of result. You don't have to worry about the result if you're doing the right thing. Keep doing the right thing. You don't have to worry about negative values because they'll drop. Hey, say you're doing something negative from another person's perspective, but you feel that's your optimum. As you do that, the next step appears. You put your foot on one and the negative drops away. You pitch up and keep going. Keep going, and it brings what you're supposed to. That cause has the effect. Let's go 28.
Ashraddhaya.
Sam, sorry.
I'm so sorry. Just a quick one. Why does it say in verse 26, this is used in the sense of reality and goodness? Yeah, I'm just curious.
So we've just been looking at that. So Sat, it translates as truth, reality. Goodness, essentially, good actions, positive actions, actions going towards the self, reality. So are devoid of agitation, stress, irritation. Something positive refines you. It allows you to see the picture, not get involved. It allows you to be objective. Keeps you calm. So you've got to perform positive actions, good actions, rather than negative actions. Performing negative actions just hold you there, stress you out, cultivate more desires for you to fulfill, bother you more. But it's actually not the action per se, it's the direction. So when your thoughts could be positive and you might be doing something which is not quite right. But as far as you're concerned, it's a positive action. So you're refining yourself. You'll keep doing that. So Sat, That's you're directing yourself in the direction of truth. Even relatively speaking, just used in both ways. Auspicious action, actions towards truth. That's one.
Thank you.
28.
Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asad iti uchyate partha najat pretya nohiha.
Rena, if you could read the verse.
Whatever is sacrificed, given or done, and whatever austerity is practiced without Shraddha, faith, is called Asat, which is not here or hereafter, O Partha.
So, asat, not real, not done with Shraddha. So, whatever one does, you see, we just had sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, ahara, yajna, dana, tapaha. The tamasic side is asat. It's not going to get you anywhere or anybody or anything. It's like null. So what is asat is not real. You're after, we're after reality, that changeless factor. So if one practices these practices, yajna tapadana, without shraddha, it's the opposite. Without asat, is called asat, in fact. So any of these done without shraddha, consistency of purpose, with that faith towards that truth, is not considered spiritual. Just like we have just the R word, IA, you put in front of something means non. So it's not that. Just as we have vidya and avidya, knowledge and ignorance, shoka, ashoka, sorrow and no sorrow. So you don't reach anything if you don't have Shraddha. That's what we were saying just a moment ago too. So when one's acting, there should be something beneficial now, or you should be directing yourself for your struggles may be for some positive benefit later. You're looking at the positives. Without Shraddha, none of that happens. It's key that you have Shraddha, consistency of purpose, to be beneficial now, and if not now, to be beneficial later. Let's read it.
Apology, a little confused. So this word Shraddha came in this chapter probably almost for the first time, almost in the last sloka or maybe somewhere towards the end. So
No, it's at the beginning.
From the beginning, okay. So I'm just trying to figure out between the sattvic, rajasic and tamasic forms of yajna or dhanam and the part where we talk about Shraddha. Are they interrelated? If it is sattvic, does it mean that it is being done out of Shraddha? If it is tamasic, it is not done out of Shraddha. Is it what it means?
Okay. So just as simply as this, if you have a good thought to getting to truth, your truth, a universal paripurna picture, that self, Brahman, Atman, one thought alone won't take you there to nullify all the thousands of thoughts which you have. Yeah, the Bhagavad Gita is the example of the battlefield of 100 Kaura brothers, bigger battalions, 5 Pandavas, smaller battalion. Positive tendencies are far less than the negative. If you have one thought of doing something towards the self, your truth, that alone won't reach you. You've got to nullify all the negatives. Then you may be in a position of start to move towards truth. So they have to be interrelated. Shraddha, a belief that there is that truth. Without going into too much, we've had it throughout these chapters. If you look, it's written here in the Gita, 2 different definitions. So we're at the end of that. So just that belief in that truth, a consistency of purpose, all the way to reaching it. That's Shraddha. If one doesn't have it, you can have a sattvic thought periodically now and again, but it's because one doesn't maintain it, because there's rajas and tamas overruling it. So with Shraddha, you keep having that consistency of thought, which becomes your action, which becomes that transformation, which nullifies the negative desires. They've got to be consistent. Are they interrelated? Of course. If you're consistently rajasic, that's what you'll be. It'll evolve to tamas eventually. If you're consistently sattvic, you're maneuvering out. It can't be alone. Yes, they're interrelated in that sense.
Good. Thank you.
We could, we're just over 9. We should complete, or I'm just thinking, do we go to next week? Everybody good for time to complete, or we go for next week?
Yes, Parvati.
Okay. Meena, you could read.
The ultimate goal of the disciplines of sacrifice, austerity, and gift is God realization. The seeker practices them with Shraddha, faith, and consistency, keeps the supreme goal in mind all through his practice until he reaches it. That supreme abode is designated by the very practice, Sat. However, if the threefold discipline is devoid of Shraddha, it is called Asat. Such faithless practice achieves nothing, either here or hereafter. The result of action could emerge immediately after the action, or later in the present life, or in future incarnation. Sacrifice, austerity, or gift, practiced without due faith and consistency of purpose, gains no beneficial result in the present or future. The words here or hereafter, used often in the scripture, indicates that such action is meaningless and purposeless.
So just to have people may misconstrue sattvic action as just ritualistic, superstitious, blind beliefs, and think that they're going. No, it's got to be with that truth in mind, with Shraddha, consistency of purpose. And you don't know when the benefits transform themselves, now or later. But that's not really your concern. Your concern is to get on with it, with Shraddha. So let's just complete chapter 17. We'll complete the last shloka and then read the first.
Om Tat Sat iti Shri Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yogo Nama Saptadasodhyayaha.
We'll just go to the beginning to show that in fact, we will read the last part. Tim, if you could read the
that is real. Thus, in the Upanishads of the glorious Bhagavad Gita, the science of the eternal, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, ends the 17th chapter, entitled The Yoga of Threefold Division of Shraddha. Faith.
So we read the first verse to acknowledge that we still have that humility. We are students. We are all learning and evolving, and to have that humbleness to continue our studies.
Arjuna Uvacha Ye Shastra Vidim Utsrijya Yajante Shraddhayanvitha Tesham Nistatu Kha Krishna Sattvam Aho Rajastamaha.
So we will start our last chapter, chapter 18. I believe that next week is Easter weekend, so we will perhaps start, I don't know if everybody's away, we'll start the week after.
17th April.
17th April. And as we're starting a new chapter, if you feel anybody would like to join that chapter, it's a very practical last chapter. Just let people know.
Thank you.
Ayom, Sam. Let me. Are you free now? Oh, no, actually, yeah, I'm free. Are you free now?
Can I call you maybe maybe a bit later today, if that's okay with you?
I've got.
What's your schedule like?
I've got something at 11, and then I've got something at 2.